conventional wisdom is that once a race is over, that everybody on that side, and usually it's a party, obviously Democratic Party, Republican Party, falls in line. And the reason for that is, hey, you don't want the other side to win. You don't want the other party to win because you really, really disagree with the other party. And usually there's not an overwhelming difference between the candidates on your side. Was there a giant difference between Bob Dole and George H.W. Bush? I don't think anyone even at the time believed that. Okay.
And by the way, now there isn't really either.
Yeah, that's right.
You seen them?
Yeah, I know, right? That is interesting. Anyway, there was at most a smidgen or a scotch of a difference between those two, right? So now is a little different time, and there does seem to be some significant gaps. Look, on both sides, John Kasich, Donald Trump, two very different people, right? And there is a world of difference between those two. Doesn't mean that John Kasich's a lovely guy, but there is still a big difference. Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, a significant amount of difference. So will you guys, and I'm opening up to everybody here on the Young Turks panel, now if I frame it as will you fall in line, of course the obvious answer is no, I don't do that and I won't do that, yada, yada. But will you be supportive at all of Hillary Clinton, or are you going to continue, like, for example, Jimmy, on your show, on Twitter, on the Young Turks, when you're on the panels, et cetera, are going to continue to criticize Hillary Clinton? Is a question I think that people in the audience and people in the press might have. So curious what you guys' thoughts on it are.
I understand what the risk is, because if you, especially as someone who's part of a huge platform like TYT, if you're actively criticizing Hillary, the conventional wisdom is that you're helping Trump, right? But what am I supposed to do? Pretend like Hillary's policies are good when I don't think they're good? You know, I feel like I'm principled when it comes to this show, and that's my number one priority. And that principle is truth-telling. So I'm not going to lie about what I feel about Hillary or Trump in an effort to help Hillary win over Trump. You see what I'm saying?
Yes. I see what you're saying.
I have to be honest with the audience about her policies. I'm not going to misinform them or hide information from them because I'm afraid of Trump winning.
So will I stop criticizing Hillary Clinton? Hell no. I will not stop criticizing Hillary Clinton, because let's just remember where first of all, for what she just said, people look to us and they're going to tell if we're bullshitting or not. And when I'm not going to bite my tongue, I'm going to tell them what I think. So after, I don't know, what is this, after 30 years of triangulation, right now, we have a 74-year-old bald-headed Jewish guy getting 46% of the Democratic vote, and he calls himself a socialist. That's after 30 years of triangulation. That's after 30 years of neoliberal bullshit. You have a 74-year-old bald-headed Jewish guy getting 46%
All right, with the
of the
Jew,
vote.
that's twice.
Just think about that. 46% of the, and he calls himself a socialist, So that's what this has led us. So if you think in 4 years things are going to be any better, you're crazy. They're not going to be any better. And by the way, they're going to be much worse. And so I don't think Bernie Sanders should go anywhere. I think he should go all the way to the convention, and I think he should go to the next convention, because he should make the Democrats who are elected scared, just the way the Tea Party scared the crap out of the Republicans. Bernie Sanders, there's a movement now. It started with the Occupy. Bernie's giving it a voice. It doesn't need to go anywhere. And of course, I'm going to keep criticizing her. 46% of the Democratic Party wants a socialist to be.
Michael, you like Hillary Clinton more certainly than the rest of the panel does.
Yeah.
So you criticized her less during the primaries anyway.
Well, I didn't criticize a ton of people. I mean,
Right.
my job was just to kind of report on what was going on, not to have an opinion about it. So but I broke my opinion rule to say how bad I think Donald Trump is. So I'm probably just going to keep that dialogue up. I interviewed, met, spoken with Bernie Sanders, like him, never have with Hillary Clinton, but I do admire her and think that this is, I do see and appreciate some of the history the Democratic Party has made over these last few elections. And so I think that's pretty cool. If it weren't Donald Trump, though, I wouldn't be sort of espousing an opinion either way. I think Donald Trump is a dangerous, dangerous guy, and I think he's a bad guy too. And so I think that there are enough people out there that will look at this race and say, I don't want to risk putting a racist in the White House. I don't want to risk somebody who is overtly offensive as Donald Trump is. So, I mean, I'm going to look at this race in the same way. I think that if I were Bernie Sanders supporter, I would say fight on, go to this convention, see it play out. I would also, at a certain point, want to sort of make sure that Donald Trump isn't president, and that would be the first thing that would come to mind, and that hasn't changed.
Yeah. So for my purposes, it's not even an open question as to, falling in line, as we all agree, obviously. But like, what would that entail? And I remember Rush Limbaugh saying after one of the elections, "I'm tired of carrying the water for the Republican Party, and this is the last election I'm going to do it." And where he accidentally admitted, "I don't give you my real opinion. I carry water for the Republican Party."
Right.
And so it was an interesting little accidental revelation. So what would we do? Would we skew stories? Like, I'm trying to figure out what the Democratic Party and the rest of or some of the press thinks that people like us should do. And I'm a little confused by it.
I know what they want us to do, right? So every once in a while when I write a critical article about Hillary Clinton, and it's always about her policies, right? So the one that got a lot of heat and a lot of attention was her ties to the for-profit college industry and how, her ties led to Bill Clinton making $16 million in 4 years from one specific for-profit college, right? I published that and I got so much heat because people are like, "Oh, you're helping Trump, right?" So essentially they're telling me, even though this criticism that you have of Hillary is justified, just shut up. Don't do it because you're helping Trump. But that's not my job. It's not my job to cover up for a particular candidate just to ensure another candidate doesn't win. It's my job to give you information about both candidates, whether it's critical information or good information, positive information, so you can make your decision for yourself, right? I'm not telling people to vote in one way or another. If you want people to withhold information so the election goes in a specific way, I think you're the bad guy.
Bernie Sanders, let's say he concedes and loses this race, whether it's tonight, tomorrow, or in late July, he's going to be the one that is in charge of where this movement goes that he has started, and all these people and who they go on to support and how they do it. But he's also going to have to dictate what he wants out of it, and I think that he has the right to do that now in ways that other candidates haven't before.
By the nature of the news cycle, though, there will probably be less stories about attacks against Hillary Clinton that we identify with, right? So when Bernie Sanders criticizes her for being too close to the banks, well, that's very true and a deep concern of ours. Whereas Donald Trump, his first line of attacks were, "She killed Vince Foster." Well, that's insanity, right? So, then we are forced into defending her because that is true, right?
Yeah.
Like that. She did not kill Vince Foster, and you're an idiot and an insane person if you think so, right? So if he was, now there will be moments where he attacks her on free trade. Do I believe anything Donald Trump says? No. Do I think that he's going to do the right thing on trade? I have no idea, right? No one has any idea. Trump doesn't have any idea.
Exactly.
Right? But if he says, okay, here's her policies, well, we can't lie and say, no, that is not her policies.
It's not our job to manipulate an election, okay? It's not our job to manipulate an election. And another thing is, look, I know that the majority of hosts on this show happen to support Bernie, and we've been very honest about it. But there was never a meeting where we're like, we all support Bernie, right?
Or you must support Bernie.
Or you must support Bernie. We all decided, oh my God, this guy is bringing up the issues that we've all felt really passionately about through our reporting through the years, right? I'm not interested in manipulating an election. I'm interested in giving people the information they need to make their own decisions. And we have lots of people who watch who are Hillary supporters, and they might get frustrated by what we're saying, but I think that the criticism that we've done is justified. They haven't been unfair attacks.
There's a million instances where we defend Hillary Clinton because the attacks are outrageous and silly.
Benghazi.
Like this Benghazi. There was the usual Secret Service smear job that they do, not the Secret Service itself. Roger Stone will plant a story in the press about, oh, the Secret Service thinks she's a witch.
Right.
Right? Like, oh, it's such an obvious plant, right? It's totally false. It has no real reporting behind it, et cetera, right? So you got to keep it real. But, something Anna said there is where I was going with it, right? So isn't it interesting that the assumption is that the press should fall in line?
That's right.
Like, so we are breaking the rules when we don't fall in line. And so what does that tell you about the press? Not something very positive, right? And I guess that they view.
But don't you think, Cenk, it's the assumption from the press also? Not the assumption that the press will, but the assumption from the press. So that, okay, now that these Young Turks and their minions and the people that follow and listen to them, the people that are in large part are on board with Bernie, probably, I don't know what percentage, or can't even guess, of the audience, that it's expected that they will fall in line by the press, not expected that you will fall in line.
No, but I already feel pressure. I don't know where that pressure comes from, and I certainly don't succumb to it. But a lot of people yelling at me, saying, you are leading your audience towards things that will hurt Hillary, hence the Democratic Party, and hence help Donald Trump. They're screaming that from the rooftops. Well, first of all, I tell people, to the best of my ability, what the facts are. And so, yes, I'm opinionated about it, and yes, I'm animated about it, but it's up to you to decide if I'm right or wrong and what you're going to do with those facts. So I don't get to take the audience and go, okay, guys, come this way, right?
Yeah.
And you certainly don't get to do it if you're wrong. If I tried to manipulate them in a way that isn't true, you know what would happen? It's not like they would come with me, they would leave me. They would leave us, because they go, then what's the point of this guy if he's just going to be another guy trying to trick us, or have a slant that isn't true, as we get with some of the rest of the press.
So the thing that I'm most proud about is in various instances, I feel like you specifically, Cenk, have done things in the name of honesty and truth-telling, even though it hurt you personally and it hurt the Young Turks, right? So when Obama first got elected, our audience, a huge part of our audience, despised us because we were calling Obama out for not keeping up with his actual promises while he was campaigning, right? We found out pretty early on that he wasn't going to keep his promises, and what are we supposed to do? Just sit back and be like, whatever. No, you hold his feet to the fire. We are not the Democratic news network, okay? We are the Young Turks, and it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican. If you do something wrong, we're going to call you out on it.
If the Democratic Party was open to it, they might then go, oh, I see, their audience does not respond well to that bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay. So perhaps I should stop doing that, because I'd like to get more votes, more support, more progressives, and maybe one way to unify the party is stop the BS and be more upfront, be more honest, be more progressive. And again, none of that is on us. We're supposed to report on the facts. It's on you as the candidate. And if you assume that the press is supposed to naturally fall in line and back you, well, I think you've got all the wrong assumptions.
Yeah.
And again, that's not on us, that's on you. So of course, going forward, what we're going to do is tell you the reality. And by the way, the reality is that Donald Trump is a monster, right? And today I did 3-4 stories. One about how he's actually not that rich. He got a tax exemption for having income under $500,000 in New York City. Okay, federal income. Okay, your income, Donald Trump, your income's under $500,000. Either you're a fraud, right, or you're nowhere, like you're committing fraud, I should say, or you're a fraud.
Right.
Right. One of those two
Right,
options.
yeah.
Right. And the list goes on, and the racist things against the judge, and buying off Bondi in Florida, the attorney general, for $25,000 to get her to lay off the Trump University scam. I mean, Trump is a target-rich environment. You don't have to make anything up. You don't have to slant anything. You don't have to do any of that. Just tell the truth about Trump, and that'll do the job. But in terms of Hillary Clinton, for those of you who think and who have been yelling at us to get in line and to support her and not hurt her cause, sad day for you. If she's not doing the right thing, we're going to call her out on it.